Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, folks. Welcome to SKTV. We are sorry for the lateness. We have some things that we have to take care of, but we are here. Let's share the show. Today, we're going to be playing host to two people, two commissioners, Commissioner Massa Washington and John Stewart. We have a lot to talk about. As I told you, we're going to be discussing the One Economic Crimes Court. Let's share the show. Milbon, Sekou, and the rest of the guys will join us here very, very, very soon.
Things at the time check what going on. We are the people. We can celebrate. We go. In fact, we move and we move very strong. We are and then to it stop us as people. So indeed, today is Tuesday. Like I said, today is the 25th of June, the 6th month and the year remain the same 2024 at a wet Tuesday evening. So indeed, welcome to the show, my colleague Steve. So let me see how best to link up with our team, the SKTV show, right here on 2FM 96.1. Steve, if you are getting me, all is set, we can now start the ball rolling.
Melbourne, good afternoon. I know you say it's a wet evening in on the East Coast. Let me say on the East Coast in Liberia. Good evening to you. Good evening to everyone out there. A nice day. I will say thank you, my people. Melbourne, today we are going to be talking One Economic Crimes Court. We're going to be talking justice and accountability. We're going to be talking politics and everything that's going on. To our people following us, we're going to be having John Stewart, a former commissioner, and also Massa Washington, a former commissioner. They are going to be our guests for today's show. It's confirmed that John Stewart will be joining us. I know we have been trying to get hold of him to join us on the show, but he will be our guest today, along with Commissioner Massa Washington. So we have a lot to talk about. And we can say, like, we have plenty to talk. Plenty to talk about justice and accountability. But in the meantime, while we are with Sekou Krumah and the rest of the team members, what is going on? I just opened Facebook today and I just see people talking about Murray and I don't know Choma and what they got named David Doe and Choma and all kind of what is going on?
So indeed, thank you. I think I started with that also about nearly 25 minutes ago, and I've been receiving a couple of messages, greetings, and so on. People, my some of these discussions, especially social discussions, because today Liberian, in fact, the entire internet is locked down to the wedding between Davido and Dala Choma, as we may say. Yes, indeed, that sparked a lot of attention. So the internet today has nothing to do with anything about Liberia politics, but social activities, things that are happening in Nigeria. Because, mind you, that wedding in fact, is one of the most talked about wedding around the world. So there are a lot of attention being given to that wedding. There are a lot of saying that indeed that woman, she's a person of love, persistency, commitment, and respect. And she's been bearing all of the patience. In fact, in making sure that indeed your dream or the dream of even Davido today come to pass. So there are a lot of myths reactions as we speak in Liberia. All are saying yes. In fact,
wait now. I mean, the way you're running with like something. This reaction from who? From Liberian who passing around causing say men are nothing.
Correct. That is the point right there. People
who disrespecting men in their life.
That's the thing right now.
The way the man useless, the other person that they can be causing the part that they want to make it not. Let them move, man.
So,
let them move. You don't get problem.
So now most of our women now, I think that the lesson learned, and they are now putting themselves together. They can always say that if I let them be able to put themselves together, because mind you, no man want to marry a disrespectful woman, no matter.
They respect I need more than they respect the person who they will so that thing.
And that's a fact. Because where in this world as a or maybe woman or a lady who fit, because even in the Bible they went to the extent where Abraham's wife even look at him calling Lord. But none of them, they're not seeing all these things, everything just look upside down. Yeah.
No more. Need that law conversation. Let me tell you something. Do you know any woman that I can take nonsense from men? Do you know them?
Plenty, my brother. Almost.
Where are they right now? Where are they?
They are right now, bro.
What in the
They plenty. Most of them are single. Most of them are single.
The Chinese men get a Jesse, right?
In fact, most of them, they were married before, but they even divorced.
You not answer my question. And then Chinese men get a Jesse.
Indeed.
They got so much more important as all be creeping to the hole in the net today. And then.
Yes, indeed.
Well, the one who can take nonsense from men, I think can keep men. That's it.
That's the thing. And then just
they won't go to church for daddy to pray for them. They won't go to church for daddy to pray for them. Their life will be.
And I let it throughout of her life, she has not even visited any church because of getting married. But today, by the grace of God, today our wedding is one of the most talked about wedding.
I can't take nonsense from men. Whatever man can do, woman can do it. We know that they pass it around. Let them pass it around. When I get time for them. That they don't want pass it around. They don't want worry. Yo, can't take nonsense from men. You're okay. I see some of those hypocrites and writing on Facebook. Oh, congrats. And I know the same person I was saying earlier on. Choma should leave David though because he got baby somewhere or whatever it is.
Yes.
Are you serious? Look, let me tell you something. Milborn. You know when I was coming up. You know what?
Please share the show.
You know what?
Tell us, please share the show, please, as we talk, we can social talk. Please share on the show. And for those of you that also through the radio follow SKTV LRB. Yeah, go ahead.
Let me say this about most women from other cultures. They're very focused. In fact, I'll give typical example Nigerian women and Ghanaian women. And I say, you're not being relationship. They got a man focused. They will end up marrying somebody from Nigeria or Ghana. Let me tell you something.
I just said on the radio. Even there that he said go back home and bring woman for my son.
Mama lead that chair, lead Abraham and Benin. I won't para what they call. I won't para something. Look, and then in a chair, I simply they can take men from. I simply can lead a man, and then they be with the pastor. Them on cover. Mama, I won't discuss with people. I don't worry about them. Look, focus people. Focus people are not easily distracted or deterred. Don't hypocrite who writing today, your wedding or royal wedding or the other one. And I see people and I say she might divorcing, she might leave, and she might go and cheat too, and she might go and do that one. Those inconsistent women that I usually listen to. Don't listen to them. Look, they're not even going to learn from this. Soon they finish writing on Facebook, they go back to the regular behavior and the attitude. So guess what? Let them enjoy life. Who cares about them? Who cares? They will be passing around sneaking small border in their homes and be on funny level there, and they get what they call funny machine and passing around with it. They get barber shop in their home.
You ready to get with your barber shop?
Someone will pass around and say the homosexual, and I can't be with man, I can be with my business. We don't care. We don't care. The people that want to be serious, who are focused, I can't take nonsense from there. And the man cheated, and the man want to divorce. And I will leave him. That useless man, and the man that useless man. Well, guess what? That Choma on a useless man will ought to be. Y'all will learn. I don't care what reason you say. Choma won bigly.
Yes, 100%. And for me, I remain one of her number one fan. Let me tell you, my brother. Look, that's what we call consistency. It's not because somebody is into another attitude. So you, that person, you should walk away. Yeah, go ahead, Chief.
That's why I supported. If you look at me for that's why I supported Mandela Cooper. I don't get time for anything what you're doing. You don't want anything you get somebody want it, anything you want somebody get it. I mean say it. Now you're gonna sit hang out with you who the other put them born to be now more. You what you who? You who that somebody might want to go turning for you working. That thing where you're getting your hair, where you're gonna be passing around, you who? You who? You're not nobody, you're not nothing, you zero balance. You're not one that man, somebody else will take him. If you vet because you went to another woman, leave. Nobody will beg, nobody will hold your phone. Nobody will beg you. Bon voyage. Go. Go. Who cares about that? We're not here for that team, man. Choma made it bigly. And I want to say congratulations to her. She made it bigly and she will forever make it bigly. I support her. Choma made it bigly. I see her passing around, y'all hypocrite and again and the wedding. Y'all go for several seasons. You're not ready yet. You're not ready yet. Your friend is behaving serious, man. You'll be passing around. They tell you that they tell you God that you get Jesus like your uncle.
And one thing, Steve. I think the society, most of our ladies or most of our women, they has been misled by the society. You know, sometimes they will think that because society say 50-50.
I guess people leave that misled. Benny, what you mean when you say misled? What you mean?
Okay, so over there, some of your children. Let me tell them. Like I can always say, right? All of the good women, I think that time ended 1980. But all the women that born in 1990, my brother from 1990 war, now wahala. Let me be frank. If you found one among them that good, tell
man.
So man,
first of all, somebody who stay in front of mirror for 3-4 hours trying to cover all who they are. Are you serious? You're supposed to tell you serious. You're not serious, man and woman. You're not ready yet. Stay in front of mirror, you may as well look funny in the time. You put your debt on your face so you can go watch it later. That you making sense? You're not making sense. Why don't we let's share the show, folks?
So the more frustrating about what you just said, my brother, is that for example, you Steve, you are into or maybe college or maybe university, and you bother with a lady and say, okay, I like you. I want two of us to be friends.
And I want bother with them.
I just and I told my and David now I'm talking about now, my brother. So that has someone in life, I look like. But some of them, because of their impatient attitude, they just want to just grab everything right away. They want to grab the entire world. So they don't care as to what does Steve have maybe potential, what does Steve have some feature in him. They don't care. The only thing that they care about is what they can get today out of Steve. If they can get something from out of Steve, they're going to work out. So from 1990, some just tell you from 1990 to 2000, most of the women, my brother, they are serious wahala. And that's just the fact. We will talk until we talk. You know?
They will talk until they talk. That they don't want leaving behind. That they don't want leave that thing.
You know what can really get to me, Steve? You know what can really get to me is they want the men to be 100% perfect. I still trying to grab that. Where you want to look? Just think about how to manage the man home. Think about how to bring up the children. Think about how to make the life better for that man. Instead, you thinking about that man going out today, or maybe that woman going for that man going out today. Look, these are things that play on the mind of some of our sisters. Wanted to understand that they're not able to even keep any man anymore because why? They feel that for example, Mabel is on the radio, so that means Mabel has so many girlfriends.
But that's fine. What do you mean? Mabel got so many girlfriends. What do you Mabel so again?
That's the thing. So, and when
what you Mabel not homosexual, what do you so again? You don't understand. You don't understand. What do Mabel so again? What do you so again? You homosexual man, that man is so again.
So
let me say this. When woman make proud because of another woman get fed because another woman business, they're not any issue, they're not case. That is not a case. It is not a case. Monk, I send it to you, bro. Let me send it back. I send it to you, my man.
So like for example, if most of our sisters will get a kind of habit, like even some of them don't even go to the extent of
our guests also be here quickly. So
yes.
Let's give up. Let our guests then setting up in the back, but quickly.
Yes. Nothing much. Nothing much.
What the latest in the town? What's going on before we bring our
nothing much besides the same story over and over. Apart from the up to 9 years still close. They are still setting up their new leadership, And in the Liberia State, the same, my brother, with the same yellow machine wahala, bosses wahala, even though we were following some news today coming from the from the lower house. In fact, they had a session on today. But again, most of the news that really catch people attention today have to do with the social issues that we're just discussing. So, Liberia, sometimes they stress because of stress. Sometimes by the time the kind of social news or social issue come out, sometimes it takes the entire internet and people don't run with it just to get their life going on, not to be disturbed, not to be stressed up because of the situation. But again, like same old stories, the same thing that happened, the same thing still continue, and nothing new apart from the lower house, Liberia government movement, my brother. So if our guests, if they are ready, we can join them.
No, the guests are setting up. Let's hear from Monk. Monk, what's going on?
Well, I'm doing okay. I've just been home monitoring the social media, the social activity. Today, the video wedding took over the whole. Everybody got their own opinion. We live in an opinion, needed war right now. It comes to a global issue. So, and we live in a trend generation. So people love trend. The latest thing that is why it draws the more attention. So I've been reading comment, and everybody got their own take. Everybody got their own optics, the way they interpret it, their relationship. But I think we'll discuss that another day, maybe on the weekend or on social issue. Then we can go down in depth. Because I tell people life doesn't come with a manual. You live it where you understand it to be. If you feel that you believe in hypergamy, where you want a man that is rich, that is wealthy, that got social status, so you're going to ignore his personal life, then so be it. They got other women that believe that nothing is going to change because marriage does not change an individual. If it's a cheat, if it's someone that doesn't respect women, nothing going to change because the fact that she married. So it's her choice to make. Unfortunately, the instructional manual for life. So you choose to live the way how you want to live. But there are two other issues that got my attention today. But we got a guest today. I don't know how the show would be or conducted, whether we will go into the war crime code issue before other topics. So up to you guys.
Well, Monk, thank you. While we're with our guest, let's get Sekou Kurma quickly. Sekou, how are you? What's going on quickly from the Southeast before we get our guests on? We'll be also joined here by John Stewart and Massa Washington. Both of them are former commissioners. But let's hear from Sekou quickly before we'll bring in our first guest. I know John should be joining us in a moment from now. So Sekou, let's hear from you. How's the Southeast? What's going on?
Thank you very much. The Southeast is okay, and most especially where I am, Grand Judah. The superintendent of the county is back, Alice Grant, and we took a tour today to the precinct compound. It was established, and evidence were provided. We saw the wall broken. I think I sent the pictures to you. The fence really got broken badly. I mean, long distance. So you have officers deployed to that particular place, and there have been some restraint on inmates not coming outside from the inner fence, so as to guide them in the process. Then they had the correction center where they carry on skill training activities. I will also send that to you. The roof of that building is completely off. I mean, for a couple of years, they are not doing anything there. They even have a river right now inside that particular building. I will send pictures to you about the PSU car.
Yeah. So what we'll do, because we have our guests here and we have limited time.
Okay.
That will be our discussion for tomorrow. Definitely, we did see the information that you provided. So tomorrow, okay, great. You'll give us more update, and we'll play some of those videos or display some of those pictures so that our viewers and listeners can see them and so forth. I got to reach out to John Stewart for him to join us if he can. He was on initially before we even set up. He and I was in the back with spoke. So we're expecting him to join us any moment from now. But let's bring in our first guest, Massa Washington. I know because we're on a show, but the show is sick. I would have put any title there, but I used to call him Massa Washington. So I will take away the end title. And then Massa, I will take away the title today. After the show, I'll play the fan. But welcome to the show.
Thank you, Moses. It's a pleasure always to be on your show. And I think it's been a minute since I've been on SKTV, right?
Yes.
Can you hear me, or should I speak a bit louder?
No, we can hear you.
Yes, yes. So it's been a minute since I've been on SKTV. You know, SKTV is home. You know, whether you love it or not, they agree with you today, they disagree with you tomorrow. It is still home. So it's good to be back.
All right, thank you. We're waiting John Stewart to join us. He was on earlier, like I said, folks. Please share the show because we're going to be having some very interesting, important, and deep conversation today about justice and accountability in Liberia. This includes the World Economic Crimes Court. As some of you are aware, quickly we have Massa Washington reintroduce herself to some of you who are joining us for the first time. Sekou, Monk, and the rest of the team members will be joining us very soon. But let's start off quick with an introduction of some of you have heard Massa Washington, you've heard the name, but it's up to you.
Sure. So my name is Massa Emilia Washington. Of course, I'm a Liberian. I am a journalist by profession as well. I served on the Truth Commission as one of 9 commissioners who were vetted by the public and asked to serve in that role. And we produce a 470-page final report and 6 volumes auxiliary report. I have been one of the persons who has been at the forefront of pushing and advocating for accountability and for the implementation of all recommendations of the TRC. And of course, one of the most important accountability recommendations is the recommendation for a special court, which is the War Crimes Court. And so that process is gradually unfolding. How bad? We've seen a lot of controversy already in the early days. But so I've been one of those, I'm one of the architects of the TRC work. I work as a commissioner. I serve in various capacity. I held, I chair and oversaw important committees such as the Committee on the National Legislature, the Committee on the Media, the Committee on Gender, which include women and men. People always think that when you say gender, they think it's just men. I mean, women, sorry, it's not true. Gender means both women and men. I chair the committee also on the, well, I can't remember now. But anyway, yeah, on the diaspora. So I was the chair for the diaspora committee. And that was the first time in any TRC process that you had a TRC leave its home country and come to and expand its work to the diaspora. So the Liberian TRC is groundbreaking in terms of its diaspora work, and the Liberian TRC is also groundbreaking in terms of its economic crimes component of the work. And my esteemed colleague, senior brother Gerald Coleman, was the chair of the economic crimes committee. And so, you know, I'm glad to be here, and hopefully we will be able to, you know, clarify some of the issues that have come up recently, and also maybe answer some questions, hopefully, so that people get to understand a little bit more about what is happening right now concerning the War Crimes Court.
So let's get a quick reaction from you before maybe Sekou Kuma and Milpon can ask you one or two questions. Let's get a quick reaction from you. Just a quick summary. Joseph Boakai signs. There's a process anyways to the whole TRC or the World Economic Crime Court. And we know that's evidence because the Sierra Leone's court, they had a process that they followed to hold people accountable, such as the former president made a declaration, signed a document, 2 documents. One of it, he signed an order for the establishment of the World Economic Crimes Court. The second one, he also wrote a letter to the United Nations to help them. I mean, typically that's the process. Most recently, we saw President Joseph Yoman Boakai did the opposite. Contrary to what Liberian thought, that it was the establishment of the World Economic Crime Court, he signed an order to appoint someone to the office and so forth. Up until now, we have heard from reliable sources behind closed door from SKTV that Joseph Boakai wrote the UN also for assistance. Fast forward, Based on your understanding of this whole thing, you've been in this for years, maybe for 2 decades or so. Where are we with this whole one economic crimes code before we even get into the nitty-gritty of it? Where are we?
Where are we? That's a good question, but that is also a question that is extremely loaded and extremely pregnant. Probably pregnant with the quadruplets or whatsoever. Yeah, so where are we? Right now, there's a lot of confusion about the process because of latest actions that have been taken towards that establishment of the court. You know, the Secretariat fundamentally lays the groundwork and the foundation for the setting up and the establishment of the court. So right now, in its early stages, there are a lot of confusion that's happening right now. And like you stated before, the Sierra Leone, you know, Sierra Leone had the Civil War just about when our war was going on. In fact, it was like, it was Sierra Leone, the Sierra Leoneans had a war because of Liberians. Liberians actually took the war to Sierra Leone, to be frankly speaking. But what the Sierra Leoneans did was they had the two processes concomitantly, meaning that they had them together. So while the TRC was operating at the same time, those who were being named and processed by the TRC and recommended for prosecution, they were being also filtered to the special court for Sierra Leone. So the both processes were working concomitantly, hand in hand, in a parallel manner. And the way it goes is that, so the national legislature will, you know, come up with the legislation approving the establishment of a war crimes court. So when the legislature does that, when the national legislature does that, they send that to the president because you need the, you know, the endorsement of the president of the country. So they send it to the president, he signs it, he endorses it. And then the next step will be, we were hoping, because that has been the precedent for the establishment of war crimes code everywhere else. So from there, the president should have written the United Nations immediately and letting them know that Liberia is ready to, for the establishment of the war crimes code. Please come in and help us. Because what people are not understanding is that this war crimes code thing is not, you know, just a Liberian thing. It has to get the endorsement of the United Nations. It has to be United Nations backed. That's how it is. Even the special court for Rwanda that was held in Arusha, Tanzania, that was the way it went. That was the way the Sierra Leoneans did it. So when you establish those kinds of, when you follow precedents, international best practice very early on in your process, then you don't get all this other confusion that is happening now. But unfortunately, when the national legislature signed the resolution establishing, you know, that resolution calling for agreeing for the implementation of the war crimes code, and went to the president, he did the right thing by signing and everything, but the next thing should have been that letter to the United Nations. But that process was blocked. And the next thing was the president actually wrote, they came up with a structure, a document, a structure of the secretariat, how the secretariat should be. Now, at that point in time, you would think that that should have been, civil society organizations should have been included, because that should have been an inclusive process. Because look, the TRC, the war crimes code, they are not meant to be political. They are not an extension of the political process. Okay, so the more human rights, you know, integrated base. So at that point in time, the president, that is, if he had consulted people who have been playing with transitional justice for a while, we would have advised him properly. What he needed to do next was to be consultative, call a consultative meeting of international human rights organizations and civil society organizations that have been moral guarantor of the TRC process and the transitional justice process in Liberia. They would have all sat down and discussed and whatnot, and they would have helped him come up with the framework and then pass it on to him. Because within the transitional justice, Liberia has a transitional justice working group. And that transitional justice working group served as a moral guarantor for the TRC process. They were the ones who, let me just say that the transitional justice working group comprised of several civil society organizations, including churches, mosques, students groups, women's groups, community groups, different groups. And they were the ones who helped to vet commissioners. They were the ones who helped to nominate the kind of people to serve on the TRC. And so that aspect of it was blocked. Now, the Transitional Justice Working Group should have been invited to sit down with the president and his destinies and discuss all of that. But they blocked that process. Instead, they followed or they used the constitutional political precedence of the president has the right as head of the executive to appoint and dismiss. Well, if you're talking about just a political process, absolutely. But this is not another cabinet minister. I mean, a cabinet, position. This is the issue of the war crimes code and accountability and transitional justice. It's not a cabinet ministry. So, yes, the president can appoint, but he can't just appoint like that in a vacuum. He needed to have consulted with civil society organizations, which includes former commissioners on the TRC. So what better resource do you have than people who actually did the work, people who actually crafted the work and say, hey, you'll do it. So as you can see, that didn't happen. And the president went ahead after they came up with the document for the structuring of how the office that is the secretariat of the war crimes code should be. The next thing was he appointed someone, and that's where the controversy is now, that appointment. So it goes back to say that anything that is not done properly from the beginning, as it move on, is not going to be correct. It's not going to be done the right way. It's going to collapse. So that's where we are right now. So the process from the beginning has not been transparent. It has not followed best practice for what has happened or what should happen in terms of transitional justice and bringing the war crimes code. So it's brought a lot of controversy now, and that's what's happening. You asked the question, what's going on? That's what's going on right now.
Okay, the process has not been followed. That's what brought the whole halu-balu that we are in right now. But Sheku Kurma, let's start with you. Any question or concern for the commissioner, please?
Madam Commissioner, Massa, Washington, are we saying that the president had a misstep? Instead of, first of all, writing the United Nations as the way Tijan Kaba did in Sierra Leone to have the special code established, was that the same way that President Boakai should have followed? Was there any mistake?
What I'm saying here is that there are precedents that people follow, and there are best practice precedents and examples that people follow. So all TRCs, not TRCs, but war crimes code, the way it goes is that once the national legislature has passed the legislation endorsing the implementation of a war crimes code, it goes to the president, he signs it, and the next thing the president does or should do is to write the United Nations to ask them to please come help the country establish the war crimes code. After that, then you start looking at the issue of establishing the secretariat for the war crimes code, because the war crimes code, the issue of the courts and the prosecutions and stuff, they're not going to happen in isolation. You got to have a secretariat in place that will put in other mechanisms so that the courts can really happen. So that's what I'm saying. So what I'm saying is the process was not followed according to best practice.
Okay.
So there was a mistake.
If you want to call it that, let me just say this. At this time, from my perspective, I am not looking to go around, throwing blows or, looking for fights. I just want to be speaking the truth about what's happening, what is not happening, how what is not happening is going to negatively impact what should be happening tomorrow and whatsoever. So I don't want people put words in my mouth. I know words. I know how to use words. You know that.
Okay.
So
Thank
the
you.
only thing yeah, the only thing you guys should expect from me here is the truth as always. And if I'm speaking the truth, I use my own words. At the end of the day, that means they will quote, that means they will sue. They will not sue SKTV. So I just want to say that I don't want people to think that this is an adversarial interview. So I don't want people to get in our mindset of, oh, we're on the battlefront. No.
No. Madam Washington, we're now on the battle.
The way you kept insisting is a misstep, is a misstep.
I listened to you carefully. There should have been a legislature signed
It was signed.
No, they did not have a legislation. They had a resolution. They did not have a legislation. So having a legislation, they should have. Okay, go ahead.
What happened is what we needed from the beginning happened. We needed a national legislature that represents the people of Liberia to agree for the War Crimes Code. Because for years and years, it's been I think it's been 20 years since the signing of the CPA in Accra, Sierra Leone. And I think it's been 16 years since the establishment of the TRC. I mean, since the TRC did its work and presented the final report. Legislatures upon legislature, they didn't do anything. Any government didn't do anything. The real government didn't do anything. So for this legislature, and again, I just want to give credit here for this legislature to have finally said, okay, that comprise some of the people who are in the report recommended for prosecution. For them to say, okay, we know what we're going to do, the resolution, or we're going to do the legislation, whatever it is, to jumpstart this is a good thing. We want to give them credit. So I don't want to focus on whether they did it. The idea is they jumpstarted the board. That's what we wanted. But for me now, where the issue is that there have been, so let me make you feel happy. There have been some missteps. Roman, you happy now, there has been some misstep. So, people miss some steps, from the president office to the public now. There's been some misstep there. Okay. And hopefully it's not too late. It's still in its early stages. Hopefully they will be able to correct some things.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for the
Quickly
clarification.
before I just turn over to Steve, do you want me to stay ask a question?
No, go ahead. I was going to
Or I
welcome.
can will it.
I was going to welcome John Stewart to the show. John, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you, and thanks for having me.
Yes, it's good to have you on. Let's go ahead with your question, and then we'll get with John. Go ahead, please.
Okay, good. Now that the government of Liberia did not write the United Nations directly, as it was done with other countries, and this whole thing came about with Alan White and the rest of the team. Do you think that the United Nations is or will come in to support this particular process? Because I feel that United Nations has been left out and they're dealing with some single individual from the United States. I mean, that's just probably a perception. That won't be a reality.
I mean, that's a good concern, and you're not the only one who have that concern. So the president didn't, after he signed the how you call it, the resolution, he didn't write the UN immediately, but he can still write the UN. We are still in the early stages, so it can still be corrected. He can still write the UN, and I'm hearing to the grapevine that he's gearing up to write the UN. That would be a good thing. So if it ain't happy immediately, let it happen now. That is a good thing. So it's not a major issue there. But the issue here is, like you said, Kuroma, the issue here is not getting the UN involved very early on. So you have someone like Alan White, this guy. So Alan White has come now. He does have some transitional justice experience because he was a chief investigator for the Special Court of Sierra Leone. And he was also part of the investigation for former President Charles Taylor, who is now in The Hague. But the thing is, he's come on as a solo, person coming to the dark continent, coming to ignorant Liberia. They don't know nothing. They can't do nothing right. They got people there, so they're poor. So he's coming now to come and take the whole process, and he can do the process. And we all know, if you work with the international community, they will tell you the blueprint is not you come to people's place and you beat them into submission, or you are the head, master in charge. No, when you come to people's place, you take your time and learn their society, and you learn to work with people on the ground. So we may not have the money or whatsoever. We may not have his vast, extensive experience, but we have some experience that he doesn't have. He's never been on the TRC. Alan White has never served on the TRC, but we have been on the TRC. And then also, Alan White has not been, I don't know, he came from the United States. So I know he's a former US colonel, and maybe he fought wars in other countries. But in Alan White's lifetime, I don't think the United States was engulfed in a civil war that directly affected him or members of his family. We have that experience. So we, who are also advocates pushing for this war crimes code to happen, we're also victims. We represent the victims and the victims community. So that's an experience that we have that Alan White doesn't have. So we know what we want for Liberia. We want justice for our people. So Alan White cannot come not having our experience, not being emotionally in tune with what happened in Liberia, but he's coming now. He's a PhD, he's a lawyer, he's a white guy. He's coming from the advanced nation, and Liberia is 000. So he's coming now to just run our project. It's completely wrong. It's also disrespectful. It's like me, a Morovia girl, won't grow up in Morovia. I will go to the country where you are and go to a village over there, and there's, I'm in charge now. Are you serious? The people will chase me out with cutlasses. So this is what is happening.
Let me ask this question, because it's actually a lot of people are talking about it. The act establishing the TRC, I'm going to find the article later, but I'm sure you have an idea. There is an article in there that states that the testimonies of those witnesses giving their testimony will not be used against them in any case of court proceedings. I'm sure you are aware of some of these things probably I'm talking about, but I stand to be corrected partly by you. Now that their names, some have been classified as notorious, some has been classified in different ways. If there will be, or it has been established now, that there will be a war crime court in Liberia, are they going to use the TRC testimonies or evidences against those very people who went and testified willingly? People said, or you people said to them that we will use your testimony against you?
Look, I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm a lawyer, but I have my knowledge of the law is above, the layman. So I will say this. So I think that clause was put in by the lawyers so that there is something called fairness and, because our process, the list and we came up with when we did our investigation was based upon the preponderance of evidence, meaning that most likely than not, the person did what the victims said they did. And we consider a lot of things. So if a person gave us their statement and said, I lived on Oro, Gay Town, and John Brown was my neighbor, but he joined the MPFL, he joined the AFL, and he came, we had an argument way back, and he came, he ripped me, and he killed my brothers, he killed my family, and all of that. Our investigators will go to Gay Town over where this person said they live and this thing happened. We will go and ask questions. Do you know Mary Jean? Did she live here before? Do you know this other John Brown? Did he live here? So you establish those fundamental facts. Then you find out, did this person fight? Were they in the AFL? Were they in the MPF? Stuff like that. So by the time you go through all of that, then you begin to understand, you say, you know what, most likely than not, what this victim is saying is true because you have established all those fundamentals. So it's called preponderance of evidence. But because the TRC was not a court, so this is why they say they want to be fair to people. So those who will be going to the war crimes court, they're going to start, the war crimes is a judicial process now. That court, TRC was not a court. So they're going to start using rare legal things. And in the court of law, they will have to do their own investigation again. So even if they think they might want to talk to some of the witnesses who came to the TRC and say, this person killed me to do this, yes, they can talk to them. They can talk to them, but they're going to establish their processes from scratch. They're going to do it from scratch, strictly now on the basis of the law. The TRC was not a court, so we didn't use every element of the law to gather our investigation, the results of our investigation. So I think it's a good thing, because that way, at the end of the day, nobody is going to say, it was just a haphazard thing. It was just a preponderance of evidence, or TRC was not a court, but then they convicted me on the basis of the TRC. So I kind of like that, because what it does is that it deconstructs everything now. So you went to TRC, people call your name there. The witnesses came and testified to call your name. The TRC put you on the list and they recommend you for prosecution. So when you go to prosecution now, when they do the investigation all over for scratch and everything, and if they come and what happened at the TRC is corroborating now, then that person cannot come and argue tomorrow and say, oh, TRC lied on me, or I didn't do it. So I kind of like that they would do raw investigation from scratch, because now it's a court. You're going to court now.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for the clarity there. Let's ask the same question to John, because then we'll get into specificity here, so we can allocate time for callers to call in to interact with both of you, and also then you can respond to them. But let's pivot to John. John, really quick, Mr. Stewart. Our question is, you guys have been on this fight and on this journey for maybe over 2 decades or so forth. The question here is, where are we now amidst the move President Joseph Yuma Bwaga has made so far in the Unity Party-led government? How do you react to that? Where are we with this whole TRC issue?
Well, I can say that still in the woods until, as Commissioner Washington says, until this thing gets underway and gets going. And my opinion is that the government of President Bwaga should write the UN seeking its support, because support from the UN is by far more important and better than support from a single source, like the US, for example. But with the UN, it's a multilateral agency where you have multilateral and multinational. So you have so many countries, So if he writes the UN and has this international support, I think the process would be subject to much less interference as compared otherwise. But let me say this, referring to the question you asked earlier about the report, and as Commissioner Washington said, the TRC was not a court, but the TRC developed its own evidentiary standards. And the evidentiary standard adopted by the TRC was what we call preponderance of evidence, meaning if John Brown shot somebody, or if I, John Stewart, shot somebody, and 100 persons, or say 20 or 30, 40 persons witness it, my shooting of somebody, and I was called to the stand, and I denied. But because so many people saw me doing it, it's more likely than not that I committed the act. And this preponderance of evidence is also applicable in Liberian law. Many people don't know that. Provision for what you call preponderance of evidence. This is in face of a situation where one cannot derive the kind of evidence you normally have in a case of murder. Now, in a regular court of law, the corpus delicti, meaning the body of the individual who was killed, the instruments of murder, what they used to kill that person, are all elements that form part of the prosecutor efforts to bring somebody down guilty. Now, the problem here is, in Liberia, 20 or more years after the war, it will be very, very, very difficult to derive the kind of forensic evidence that you will normally need in a regular court of law to convict somebody. So for the most part, the War Crimes Code, when established, will have to depend on or use this method, the preponderance of evidence. Now, it is, and what the report says is that the War Crimes Court, when it gets underway, is not going to take the TRC report and say, hey, because the TRC report says you are guilty, so therefore you are guilty. The War Crimes Court will have to derive its evidence independently, just as we've been seeing happening in other jurisdictions in which perpetrators of war crimes have been held. Take, for instance, the trial in France. And these are some of the hurdles that these trials face. Because the incidents happened so many years ago. Fragments of bone and all of that will be difficult to find given our weather conditions, heavy rains and moisture that would lead to easy position of bones and all of that. And the TRC had proposed to conduct what we called a death toll investigation. And that death toll investigation was, the purpose was, first of all, to determine with some degree of accuracy the total number of deaths that occurred during the war, whether it was by hunger, or whether it was by starvation, hunger and starvation, whether it was by killing or what have you. And the TRC put together a proposal and forwarded it to the government of Liberia. The German government was interested. The Germans were interested, actually, drawing on the experience of Argentina and other places where forensic evidence were derived to guide prosecution. But this did not happen. The government of Liberia supported it. So we didn't have the death toll investigation. So in the absence of the death toll investigation, the TRC came up again with another proposal to conduct what we call a random mortality survey. That will give you an idea of just how many persons died. Now, in some localities, now we visited several massacre sites, like the Blowtown massacre that occurred in Riverside County. When we went there, we were taken to the massacre site in a rubber farm right opposite the town. Bones were still all about the place, and you could see these remains. But today, you won't be able to find those remains. In some places, people kept the bones as forensic evidence. So, but what will be missing from that piece of the puzzle would be the instruments of murder.
Thank you.
Like, for instance, okay, all right.
Thank you.
So basically,
Thank you, Commissioner Stewart. We want to get into the nitty gritty here of the meat of this entire conversation. And I like the premise that you and Commissioner Washington have laid so far, that there were some missteps, basically. Now, here's my question. Amidst the missteps that you guys have pointed out, the president proceeds to appoint Councilor Massa. In appointing Councilor Massa, there's been subsequent complaints, issues raised with him, or about his appointment to oversee the office of the World Economic Crimes Court. My question to both of you, based on your experiences serving as commissioners and being actively involved in human rights issues and advocacy and all of that, what do you guys make of Councilor Massa? Is he the right person for this job? What is it? What's all the hullabaloo and the noise coming with him? We'll start with Commissioner Massa, and then we'll come to Commissioner Stewart.
That is a very good question. He's absolutely not the best suited for the job. As a matter of fact, he's not even qualified for the job. People need to understand, just because the president office drafted or created a document specifying the requirement of the of what the staff or senior staff should look like for the War Crimes Secretariat, and they said, well, he must be a lawyer, an astute lawyer. So he's a lawyer, but I don't think he's an astute lawyer. Okay. Secondly, he's a lawyer. We understand now that he's a commercial lawyer. Now, what people need to understand, Steve and the rest of you guys, is that like every field, you have specialist areas. This aspect of the law that we're dealing with right now in terms of the War Crimes Code, TRC and all, is human rights law. This guy who has been appointed, Jonathan Massa, has zero education in human rights law. He has zero experience in human rights law. He has zero experience, knowledge, skills with transitional justice, with which the TRC, the War Crimes Code, all fall under. Now, he's a lawyer, yes, but we understand that he's a commercial lawyer. It's like I'm a journalist. I report on political issues, on women issue. I did training in all of that. But guess what? I am not an aerospace journalist. I cannot report on science or the aerospace. I cannot report on climate change and the environment. They have specialist journalists for those areas. They have economic journalists. They have medical journalists. They have judicial journalists. Those are people who are specialized in those fields, and they're journalists. And so when they report on those fields, you know that they're speaking the truth, they've done proper research, and they know what they're doing. And this is the same thing with the law. Just because somebody is a lawyer does not make him, for example, a corporate lawyer, does not make him, for example, a medical lawyer. You know, so this guy will understand that he's a lawyer, he's a commercial lawyer.
Okay.
He sues people, they pay him, and he makes his money. But then here you are, you take him randomly. This is a random guy when it comes to transitional justice. You take this random lawyer and you have named him as the most important number one person to establish the secretariat from which the War Crimes Code and everything will emerge. It's completely ridiculous and it's bogus, if you ask me further.
Thank you. So let me go to John really quick here. Mr. Stewart, I will go back and forth. I hope you're comfortable with that with Mr. Stewart and John. I'm finding it hard to take a balance here, but please, Mr. Stewart, let me ask you this question. Also, a couple of investigations done, reported by different sources. For example, let me quote something here about Councillor Massa. It states, quote, Councillor Massa representing Madam Agnes Reeves Taylor instituted multiple lawsuits against human rights defenders, institutions, and people who have been genuinely fighting for the establishment of the War and Economic Crime Code for many years. This is a quote, and this was stated by Adam Dunster. This is what Adam Dunster states concerning Mr. Councillor Massa. What say you? Is it conflict of interest? Councillor Massa represented war laws or people who committed atrocity, went against human rights violated, people who are defending human rights. What say you? And he's appointed today as being in charge of the War and Economic Crimes. What say you?
Well, you're not very audible, but let me say this. I don't know if I'm audible as well.
You are.
Am I?
Yes.
But let me say this. In addition to what has been said about his filing of lawsuits against human rights advocates and what have you, for me, the issue here is one of integrity. Now, you can recall that the Speaker of the House of Representatives of Liberia, Jonathan Kofa, Fonati Kofa, led a charge from the House to have this War Crimes Code established. But let me say also that Speaker Kofa runs a law firm, the International Law Group. That is one of the leading law firms in Liberia currently. And the fact that Massa is an employee of the Liberian Law Group, a firm owned by Jonathan Kofa, suggests to me that he will not be independent. More than that, you can also recall that the current speaker, during the regime of Madam Ellen Sirleaf, was appointed as a prosecutor to prosecute several individuals, including Senator Vonnie Sherman, for alleged involvement in a scheme to sell off the Bologisi Mountains. And I'm sure you remember the Big Boy 1, Big Boy 2 saga.
Yep.
Yes. And the fact is that this law firm, just last night on Spoon Talk, that a lot of revelations came out from a member of the House of Representatives, Representative James Colette of Jocola District, in which he made startling allegations and revelations against the leadership of the House, led by Speaker Jonathan Kofa. Impropriety, financial impropriety, you know? And so I believe that, again, the bottom line is the control of funds. Alan White has been seeking all along to control the funds. And Alan White, in my opinion, is an unscrupulous character. Aside from the fact that he's a military man, a colonel in the U.S. in the U.S. military, and now you in America, you know that somebody just doesn't rise to the position of colonel in the U.S. military. You must have combat experience to be promoted to the position of colonel in the U.S. military. You just don't fly by night. You go to military school, you come from there, and you sit in the office, and the following year, they give you an appointment as this. No, the U.S. military is exacting in those that have combat experience. And when you get commissioned as an officer, you start off as a lieutenant and captain, commanding troops. As a lieutenant, you rest in charge of a company, commanding troops on the battlefield. So I don't know which of the battlefields he's been to around the world. America has had several battlefields. And it is also alleged that he's been involved with the Defense Intelligence Agency. Now, I recall that during the TRC process, there was a former U.S. military man, a major, who applied to be General Secretary of the TRC, but rejected him outright. And there were people who were pushing him to become General Secretary of the TRC, Executive Secretary, rather.
Okay. Well, I think John is frozen. But Massa, Commissioner Massa Washington, let me ask you this question. Yes, we Liberians are in numbers, some
money, funds towards this project. And Alan White wants to control those funds. And he has been working allegedly with other individuals that are affiliated with Jonathan Massa. Alan White has been to Liberia. He's a lobbyist. He was involved in the political contours, in the political turmoil of this country. You remember when this alliance was formed, comprising of Ure, Boakai, Cummings. And there was a time when Cummings had expressed his desire to head the ticket. There was a meeting held in Accra. Even by the news reports that came out of there, Cummings had offered Boakai $5 million to step aside to give him, Cummings, to head the ticket as a presidential candidate. And Boakai had refused it. He rejected it outrightly. But then, while discussing, Mr. Alan White walked into the meeting unannounced and began to plead with the then candidate Boakai to accept the $5 million offer. You see, so we must let's draw the dots. Here is the Speaker of the House running the most powerful law firm in the country. It has his protege appointed to serve as executive director of the proposed War Crimes Code against the backdrop of allegation of serious corruption involving the Speaker and other members of the leadership of the House. So it's an integrity problem. It's an integrity issue. Of course, there are other integrity issues, which I can't go into now with Councillor Jonathan Massa, but he's just not the right fit. He's not a politician to what Commissioner Washington has said, that he lacks the expertise in human rights law, international human rights law. And so, besides that, there was no vetting. Is he the best fit? Yes, if he is the best fit, then he must have been vetted. Was he vetted? No. When commissioners were appointed to serve on the TRC, they went through a vetting process.
Thank you.
The public was asked to nominate individuals. There were several individuals, I think about 60 or so. The vetting committee brought it down to 19, eventually 15, and submitted to the then head of state, Judith Bryant, to appoint 9 out of the 15 vetted candidates. And that's how come we were appointed by Chairman Bryant as members of the TRC. So did the Bar Association have an input into Massaqua's election? Is he the best representative? Bar? Did the bar have an input? No.
Thank you.
I don't
Thank you.
believe so. There's no evidence to suggest that the bar had an
Thank you
input.
very much. Thank you.
Commissioner Stewart, thank you. Quickly, just for the record's sake, we have Mr. Cummings on here before we ask Commissioner Washington this question. We had Mr. Cummings on here, and he asserted, I will quote him, first of all, no money was discussed. No money was ever laid on the table. I think President Joseph Boakai at the time also on other network was asked about the meeting. There was nothing such as money that was discussed. And so,
excuse me. When the reports came out, there was no denial. I wrote an article. I wrote an article on that. There was no denial. There was no denial that money was in the play. There was no denial that Alan White walked into that meeting. Why is it now that he would want to deny that there was no money at play?
There were denial from the there were denial from the Kennedy.
There was no denial. There was no denial.
Commissioner Washington.
There was no denial. I wrote an article about it.
Commissioner Stewart.
I wrote an article about it.
Commissioner Stewart.
Commissioner, you have to wait a little bit because he's trying to come in. Apparently, you not get it too clear.
We spoke.
Okay.
We interviewed Mr. Cummings here.
Yes.
Before anything came out, we interviewed Mr. Alexander Benedict Cummings here, and Mr. Alexander Benedict Cummings refuted any conversation of money at any level. Even with the assertion that I don't know, Adam White walked into the meeting, that was not. He said that was not even part of it. So I mean, you are entitled to what you have as evidence, and we're not disputing, but we're also stating what we heard from Mr. Cummings here on SKTV. I just wanted to point that out. But let me ask this question.
Yes, thank you. But did you interview President Boakai or Vice President Boakai or candidate Boakai on the same thing, on the same issue?
No, Candidate Boakai turned down all interviews with SKTV at the time. He did not show.
Well, I can tell you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Cummings' denial is belated because these issues came up. They played in the media. I wrote an article about it. There was no denial at the time. And it's been more than 2 years ago. There was no denial. So why now? Why is it so belated? But anyway, that's not the issue.
Thank you.
The issue is.
Let me ask. I got a question for Commissioner Washington. Can I ask Commissioner Washington? I will circle back with you, please.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, Commissioner Washington. Speaking of the point that Commissioner Stewart made regarding the allegedly, money play, conflict of interest. All the dubious things are going on, whether it involves the Speaker of the House and other people. Listen to what this is what was released by Representative Chris Smith from New Jersey. And this was released and published on the 21st of June, about 4 days ago. Quote, this is what he states. With the critical employment, President Boakai continues to show his commitment and eagerness for justice, said Smith. Its expeditious pursuit of accountability for the people of Liberia has strong support here in the U.S. Congress, and we will continue to support him when he stays the course for justice in the face of inevitable pushback from those guilty of crimes or trying to undermine the process. How do you react to Chris Smith from the U.S. government? You were saying yes.
Well, I can tell.
Okay, so let me come in if you don't mind.
Yes, please.
So,
please.
Yes, Steve. And this is one of the problems that we're having, because people don't really know all the shenanigans going on behind the scene. So Congressman Smith, again, trying to be respectful to his office, I don't know whether he knows anything at all about all this scam that going on, call it a scam, or if he knows, to what extent, or, I want to respect that the congressman is an honorable man. So I'm not even going there with him. But you can see it's all part of Alan White's playbook. Alan White is the spider here who is spinning this web, and everybody is being entrapped in it for his own self-aggrandizement. So I will go from the beginning and I will make it short. So since 3 or 4 years ago, Alan White plucked from amongst Liberians, people, some of whom I will consider stooges that he think he can use. Next thing you know, we're sitting home. I don't work a few persons. Most of them don't know anything about TRC, transitional justice, nothing. And he takes them to Congress. What does he do? He puts it on video. He does that because he wants that shock effect to go to the Liberian public. Most people, are oblivious to these kinds of issues. They don't know what's going on. So they see Adam White take few people and goes to Congressman Chris Smith's office and say, oh, we're having a hearing, or we having a meeting on Capitol Hill. And they take the picture, they take the video, they pass it all over the place. That is all meant to validate and legitimize Alan White and what he's trying to do. Because Alan White knows that when the ordinary Liberians see that, they think that he has the support of the United States government. That's what it's all about. So he's done it for some time. Let me ask you a question. Highest Aid Alan White has never invited any other TRC commissioner. There were eight of us on the TRC after Bishop Kuda resigned very early on. There were 8 of us. 6 signed a report. So let's just say if the other 2 who didn't sign the report, you don't want to get them involved because they denied their own report. But what's about the other 6 commissioners? Jerome Fueda was the only person he was dealing with, and we know why. What happened to the other 5 commissioners? Why has Alan White not bothered with any of us? Why has Alan White not bothered with the Transitional Justice Working Group? Why has Alan White not bothered with civil society, other advocates, Hassan Belete, other people, Lovetta Tokwe, other people, Patrick Twan? Why has he not bothered with any of us besides that little handful of people that he took and he passed it all over the place? So you get my point. So it's Alan White's playbook and it's part of it. Let me tell you something. In January, I went down to Washington, D.C. to meet with some people there too. And one of my concerns was I wanted to know, is Alan White representing the United States government? But even before I made that trip, I went for a different thing, for a different meeting, and I just decided to ask that question because I was curious. Even before my trip, 2002, 2001, the former U.S. ambassador said Alan White did not represent the United States government. He did not speak for the United States government. He was a private U.S. citizen, living his private life and doing his private thing. Okay? And when I went to D.C., after my meeting, I spoke to some highly placed sources that I wanted to know. Because this man has come, dropped from the sky, and he's the headmaster in charge, hijacking everything and whipping the rest of us into submission. And I was told that Alan White does not represent the United States of America government. He's a private individual. As a matter of fact, he's a lobbyist. Alan White is a registered lobbyist. I have a copy of his registration. He has an organization. He's a registered lobbyist, and he goes around and he lobbies people for money. That's what he does. Okay, so you can see that. Let me just, I will finish quickly. So you can see, I don't know whether Congressman Chris Smith know that Alan White is doing all this shenanigan in the back. So immediately when Boyka announced Jonathan Massacre, who is an extremely poor fit for the job, and when it started receiving backlash, next thing you know, Congressman Smith comes out very, very early on in the midst of this backlash, and he comes on to endorse it on his office letterhead as, a representative of the United States Congress. And what is the cover? What is the cover page? The cover page is the seal of the United States, the office of the Congress. So they take the seal and they put it on the cover page so that when you see it immediately, you are intimidated. So if you are an ordinary Liberian who don't know all these things and don't know how things work, how the U.S. government works, when you see it immediately, guess what? You're going to support Alan White. Oh, the United States government is supporting Alan White. You see the congressman finish endorsing it. Oh, let me tell you something. Several persons have called me already since I've been speaking up. They have told me, Massa, you know what? You can fight Alan White. You just need a thing. So somebody even called me and said they were worried and concerned about me when they got to know Alan White's background, that he's a former military man, blah, blah, blah. We worry about you, before something happened to you in that place and all of that. So, but this is the exact impact that Alan White was looking for. This is the exact impact. So Alan White is looking to shock the Liberian people and to, indirectly intimidate them into just let it be, let him go ahead and take control of our own process in our own country. And so I'm saying to you and everybody else, I'm not saying that dismiss Congressman Chris Smith. We are, as we speak, we are planning to engage him because he needs to hear from the other side. He's only hearing from Adenwa and his group. He needs to hear from the other side. Okay, so I'm not saying dismiss him because he's a congressman. Yes, but what I'm saying is I am not bothered about it. I'm taking it with a grain of salt because I am not intimidated by anybody. Even God said no. Jesus Christ, all of they did not give up on me because I'm not intimidated by nothing under the sun. So Alan White does not intimidate me. So all of that is all part of the playbook of Alan White. So immediately he called Chris Smith, the issue of this release, so that in the midst of all this controversy, Liberians have the right to ask questions. It is our relatives who were killed. It is our mothers whose stomach was open. It is our cousins and young brothers who were taken to be child soldiers. Okay, I have a brother who was chopped into pieces. All right, I have first cousins who were killed. 2 of my cousins are still missing. One of my auntie died waiting for her son to show up. We will tell her Auntie Fatu, if he was alive, he would come. She thinks that she thought up to her death that her son was somewhere in the sub-region and he will show up one day. She died disappointed. Okay, so Alan White has no relative who has died in Liberia. He has no sister, no auntie, nobody who were disgraced, whose stomach were open, who were raped in the public, whose dignity were taken away from them. So Alan White cannot be the person who will love Liberia more than me or John Stewart or any of the advocates. We see it through his playbook, and this is why we're fighting back. So, Moses, let them issue all the releases. Let them do whatever they want. Even the United States government, this is not the era of in the 70s, where people used to assassinate people all over the place, Patrick Lulumbas and all the different people. So there's a new day. There's an era of human rights. So even us, okay, we have a voice. All we have to do, organize ourselves, go to Congress, and even respectfully ask to meet with Congressman Chris Smith so he can hear the other side of the story. So I'm not worried. Really, I'm not worried. If they want said they can read the release on President Joe Biden office and send it all over the place, I'm still not perturbed.
Thank you. Commissioner Stewart, let's have you respond to this quickly so we can get to the line here.
Okay. To answer your question, let me refer you to 2 instances. First of all, Congressman Smith, with all due respect, his word is not law and gospel. Congressmen and women will have ideas, they will have opinions on the situation in Liberia. I can give you a typical example. In late 2002, going to 2003, a meeting was held at the U.S. Embassy, which I participated in. And present in that meeting was Archbishop Michael Francis, Councillor Elizabeth Boyine, Kofi Woods, and Congressman Ed Royce, and Congressman Donald Payne. It was on the situation in Liberia. I was invited to that meeting, and I think another person in that meeting was also James Fromoyan. We were invited to this meeting at the U.S. Embassy. And my position was that the Taylor government be given or assistance to the government of Liberia under the leadership of Charles Taylor be conditioned on the attainment of certain benchmarks as regards the respect for human rights. Congressman Payne, on the other hand, there was a little clash between Congressman Payne and Congressman Ed Royce. Congressman Payne was pushing the black line that, he's a black, he's an African, and that. But he was completely in opposition to the positions that we were taking, and contrary to the stance taken by Congressman Ed Royce. So on the singular Liberian issue, there were 2 opposing views. Congressman Payne, with his view that Taylor should be supported, and Congressman Ed Royce with his view that support to Taylor should be conditioned, be based on the attainment of certain benchmarks. So Congressman Smith has his opinion. Other congressmen and women will have their opinion. But what we want to say is that this is our process. I remember during the TRC process, President Salim brought in George. We had a meeting with George Soros. And what was George Soros' position? That we should take instructions from the International Center for Transitional CTJ, and that he would not provide a dime to the TRC if he did not hear from ICTJ.
Yeah, but
we rebuffed him. And we were determined to maintain our independence. We challenged the ICTJ. They wanted to take over the process. So I'm not surprised that this kind of maneuvering is going on now to take control of the War Crimes Court. We had that experience. Hello, can you hear me?
It's coming.
Commissioner Stewart.
Yeah, Commissioner Stewart. Steve is coming in.
Yeah, before we get to the lines quickly, I want to ask both of you this question.
Hello?
Yes, can you hear me?
Commissioner, you getting him? Are you hearing Steve?
I think there's delay from him. I want to ask both of you this question.
Hello?
Yes, Commissioner Stewart, can you hear me? Because we got to get to the lines. We have to get to them. But let me throw in this question quick. Okay. I don't think he's hearing or he's breaking through. Commissioner Stewart, you might want to go out and come back in because you're having break-in transmission.
Yeah, he's actually.
So let me ask you. Let me ask Commissioner Washington this question. Do you guys believe and think that, because from what I'm hearing, you guys want a hands off, whether from the US government or from other third parties, you wanted to be mostly Liberian being in charge. Do you guys believe Liberians are able to expense justice fairly to their own people amidst the corruption? Even President Joseph Boaga on record went in court before the election and lied in court. Can these people, can they be trusted with justice on their hands? I just wanted to ask that question before we can go to the lines.
That's a very good question. I'm glad you asked this question so that we can provide the clarification. No, that's not what we're saying. We are not saying that we want only Liberians to handle or drive this process. We are not saying that we don't want the United States or any other, third party. We would be completely idiotic to think that. We do want the United States to play a role. Don't forget, the United States is our historical, primary international partners. So we do want the United States to play a role, and we want the whole world to play a role. This is why we are appealing to President Joseph Boaka to write the UN, to ask the UN to please come, so that way you have a more conglomerate of world organizations and also countries helping us. But so this is not an issue about we wanting the US or don't want the US. I'm referred to as a friend of the US. The issue here is the issue of Alan White. Now, it so happens that he's a U.S. citizen. He's an American, but he could have been a Dutch citizen. He could have been a British citizen. He could have been a French citizen. Okay, our issue here is he coming in disrespectfully, disrespecting all of us who represent our people, and we may not be perfect. We're not perfect. We're not holy because we're human beings, but most as you know, we represent the best of our people, because we have established the track record for decency, honesty, hard work, and whatsoever. I've never worked anywhere in Liberia and stole anybody money or embezzle anybody. The TRC, we worked for 4.5 years, 5 years. We were audited 6 times by everybody, by the United States, by EU, the Liberian government audited us 3 times, GAC of John Modu and all of that. Not a single allegation of corruption, because we made sure it didn't happen. So we represent, the best of our society. And that's our process. So Alan White comes, he has interest in doing this. Fine. But guess what? You can't do it without us. Not only can you not do it without us, you can't create all this division. You come, you think that, like some God, like this demon God, oh, I have come from the United States. I'm white. I'm a white man. I got all this international connection. I got this money. I'm from a U.S. corner. So guess what? I don't recognize you. I don't recognize your efforts. I don't recognize your knowledge of your country and your people. I know what Liberians want. I know what the victims want. I know what your man and other people want who were raped. I am white. Okay, I am the head guy in charge. So I'm going to do this for you. That's the issue we have with Adam White. So this is not about his nationality or where he's coming from. And then also, over the years, after he carried on, we also did our investigation. We realized that Adam White wants the war crimes code, yes, and we applaud him for wanting the war crimes code. We want the war crimes code, but then we realize now that we have different reasons why we want the war crimes code. We want the war crimes code because we want justice for our people. Like you said, more than 2 decades we've been pushing this thing. Nobody pay us. We've been pushing this. We want justice for our people. So we want the war crimes code. Because also, somebody like me, you can't easily live in Liberia. You got perpetrators that threaten you all the time. They're suing us all over the place. You say somebody was a mother of the revolution, they sue you, so as they're trying to shut us down. So we are fighting for our future, our survival, and we're fighting for justice for our people. Alan White comes, we see that Alan White wants the war crimes code, but he wants the war crimes code because he finds an opportunity to make his money. So Alan White is about making his money, okay, and we want justice. Now, and I will say it very quickly because I know you, I don't want to talk over you. Now, Alan White is a registered seasoned lobbyist. That's what he does. Nothing is wrong with that. But what Alan White could do is he could come to the Liberian people or the government whatsoever and, war crimes code advocate and say, hey, I want to support your cause. I believe that you need justice. But hey, I'm a businessman. This is what I do. I have some experience. I can help you get funding. But hey, this is what I need to be paid. Because he's an official lobbyist. He's a registered lobbyist. It's perfectly legal. Nothing is wrong with that. So Alan White can come and sit where everybody talk with the government and say, listen, I can help you get funding for the war crimes code. I can even give you some advice as to how to go about this and so. But hey, you need to pay me for my services. That is better. It's more respectable than Alan White causing a whole lot of confusion. Alan White has brought all this confusion amongst the chairman of the TRC and his own commissioners. Alan White sits there, someone like Alvin Smith insults someone like me. Alvin Smith, I will say it here. Alvin Smith was wearing uniform. Okay, he was a member of the AFL 1990, operating in a single area. Now we know they have several death squads that were operating in a single area in 1990. Alvin Smith was fighting. So this is the Alvin Smith that he would take and care to Congress for Alvin Smith to say he's a war crime investigator. Yeah, we want Alvin Smith to please investigate and tell what happened to the Lutheran Church. Say he was in a single area and whatnot. So, it's the hypocrisy of the Alan White something. This is what we're talking about. And it's a disservice because our people died. We want justice for our people.
So Commissioner Stewart, I'll give you 2 minutes and then we'll go straight to the line because we definitely got to get to the line so that we can.
Yes, Steve, before we can give Commissioner Stewart 2 minutes, can I talk something a little bit about Alan White?
Well, go ahead.
Thank you very much. You see, from what I'm seeing here, Alan White has a very big portfolio, not just as a lobbyist. Alan White was the founding chief investigator of the United Nations backed Special Code for Sierra Leone in 2002 to 2005. And Alan White directed and supervised all global criminal investigation involving war crimes, crime against humanity. And his effort resulted in indictment and conviction of Charles Taylor, former president of this country, with 12 related indictments. Alan White served for over 30 years in the United States government and was a member of the senior executive service and held a variety of leadership positions as a federal law enforcement executive. Dr. White's last assignment was the director, investigative operation defense criminal investigations, U.S. Department of Defense, Inspector General, Washington, D.C. Dr. White directed and oversaw all criminal investigation and global operation of the DICE involving terrorism, cyber crimes, money laundering, bribery, corruption, kickbacks, major procurement fraud, and other major crimes impacting the DoD. Now, if you look at these things, Alan White has a very big portfolio, wide one, that even Liberians need him with a lot of experience for the establishment of this war crimes code. So I am not going to 100% agree with Commissioner Massa Kwe, that this is just all about money. More precise, Allen White was not the one who came to Liberia. We saw the video where Allen White and President Boakai was sitting and having a discussion.
Mobility is
And
something.
Allen White said, I was amazed when I saw your fraud.
Oh my God.
So, that's my view about it.
Okay, can we get to the line so that we can hear from our people, and then Commissioner Washington can respond or react to what the viewer said vis-a-vis what you say as well? We'll reach out to Allen White to see if he can join us on the show at some point, so that But again, at the end of the day, Commissioner Washington and Stewart are here to make the case for War and Economic Crimes Court and some of the questions that they have and concerns. But go ahead, Sheku, can you please help us to take some calls, please?
0881 143504, 0776 105 105 are the numbers. Put your calls. Let's hear you if you want to be a this program. Our guest tonight is former TRC Commissioner Massa Kwe and former TRC Commissioner John Stewart. So if you have questions, you can put it through right here. Let's take this pricing. Hello.
Yeah, hello. How are you?
I'm okay. Your name? Where you calling from?
Yeah, this is Morris Dollar. I'm calling from Monrovia, Badger Factory.
Let's hear you.
Yeah, the counselor that is in the studio over there, the guy, I don't really know his name. I heard him saying something about Mr. Cummings and Mr. Boakai having a meeting in Ghana where Mr. Cummings offered Mr. Boakai a sum of $5 million. And then Steve said that it was responded by Mr. Cummings at the time. He said that it's not true if it was related. I am telling you, what Mr. Boakai will ask the same question. And Steve said Mr. Boakai will just all the offer, all the invite that they invited him to on SKT.
Okay.
I have listened to Mr. Boakai. I listened to Mr. Boakai on Spoon TV denying there was no money offer, including Mo Ali. And Mr. Cummings also responded the same question on Spoon Talk and also SKTV that there was no money exchange. And he come from with his comment.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Let's take another pricing. Hello. Okay, let's take this pricing. Hello.
Yes, hello.
Your name? Where you calling from?
I'm Prince Massa Kwe. I do join you from Canasville Supermarket.
Prince, welcome. Go ahead. Let's hear you.
Yes, for the show. My input is the man who Waka appointed Councillor Massa, that man is unfit to say or to spread the process that is the TR because President Waka came to the presidency with lies and pretense. So I believe is unfit to lead our country.
Okay.
So the only person right now who I believe that can deliver our people is Mr. Cummings. So we are just begging Mr. Cummings to come back and deliver all of the wrongs.
Thank you, Chief.
That Waka is doing.
Thank you. Hello.
Hello.
Your name? Where you calling from?
I'm Brother George Kilinto calling from Todi.
Welcome, brother. Let's hear you.
Brother Kumar, thank you very much. A question about the war and the economic crime court. Why you explain to me tonight and make it to feel good? You know, what we say about the president of Nigeria when Joseph Boga did well. The TRC group, they fail to implement the TRC mandate. When the TRC, before the TRC was that they should have taken office. Who was the former president? Bailey, Frank Johnson, and all of that. They shouldn't take office. But the TRC, people sat down, the community sat down, and they allowed people to take office. And President Bailey never implemented the TRC order.
Okay.
John Vianney did it, and Walker has done the right thing, then they coming out to criticize him. Look, that lady is talking, she must be careful. Walker, when the person appointed, he is being a human rights lawyer, you can be a commercial lawyer and be a human rights lawyer. It's not wrong.
Thank you, Chief.
The character with remember. So she remember that why he investigated what she don't know.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Tonight, it was very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I don't want to talk in that, but our TRC report, the recommendation should have been legislated. It was never legislated, so you can't blame the commissioner. It should have been legislated by government and it becomes a law. Let's take
let's more calls. I beg you. It's not easy today.
Calls coming to 081 14 35 04 0776 105 105. Let's hear you. We'll take this pricing. Hello.
Hello.
Your name and where you calling from?
Calling you.
You say your name?
Precious, and I'm calling for Stewart.
Precious, welcome. Let's hear you.
Yeah, what I want to say on the show is, I want you guys to tell the listener that we shouldn't think about party. Let us think about who will bring benefit to all Nigerians.
Okay.
For our own benefit. And also, I want to say this to Mr. Cummings. He shouldn't lose a hope. Let him have courage and come like we already need him. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Keep the calls coming to 081 14 35 04 0776 105 105. Let's hear you. If you want to be a part tonight, we have two guests sitting wonderfully and beautifully in the studio tonight from various homes anyway. Hello.
Yeah, how you doing, sir?
I'm okay. Your name, where you calling from?
I'm Toti Wanto Peking and calling you from Cheese Factory.
Let's hear you, my brother. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, sir. You see, the appointment by Mr. Whitecard appointing Massa, it's just a man-made bluff. I'm gonna show the Liberian people. No, you just wanted to make the Liberian see that, oh yeah, Mr. Boaga will be share president, but it's a lie. But I'm gonna show the Liberian people, right, at the point. So Boaga came to the presidency with team with lies and propaganda that they wish or think that we still carry that kind of lies and propaganda for which is a bluff. And also, I'm apologizing to everyone who feel hurt to come solo and it's not because 2029, if we win the election, like in the show the Liberian people.
Hello. Let me ask one question. Is the show tonight really about Alexander Benedict Cummings? I just want to ask that question. The reason I ask quickly, there's a question being asked. Do you think Massa, right, is able enough to head the office of the War Crimes Court? That's why these two people were invited to speak about. What do you think? Because it's sparking mixed reactions in public areas or somehow.
Okay. The thing is that I started that it's a lie. Mr. Boaga is doing it because they want to show off, and those guys that he appointed, they are all lost.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Put your calls on 081 14 35 04 0776 105 105. Let's hear you quickly. We can take two more calls. We'll get back to Steve if we can. So let's hear you. Put your calls 081 14 35 04 0776 105 105. Let's hear you tonight. If you got a question for the people or you want to answer the question as well, we can also, hear you on the matter. So let's be a part of it tonight and let's move on with our talking point. Quickly, Steve, we'll send control back to you if we can.
Thank you. I have a caller here from the US. Let me get that caller on, then we'll have reactions from Commissioner Massa Washington and Commissioner John Stewart. Caller, what's your name? Where you calling from, please?
Hey, Steve, this Lofa. This is Massa. Great to see you. Great to see you, and of course, Stickle in the studio as well. Quick question for you, sis Massa. From all indication, you did a decent job for Liberia, and that project that was handed to you was to carry on the investigation, the TRC report. But this is a project that you and other commissioners did excellently, and we said thank you. My only question was part of the agreement in that project that you will indeed follow up to be a part of the prosecution of those perpetrators, because when I'm listening, I hear you and other commissioner wanting to be a part of the proceeding process. Was that part of the agreement? Because you did a piece of job, you completed it successfully, excellently, and now we are hearing you and others asking to be a part of the rest of the project. Is that what was discussed or agreed upon? Anyway, thank you again for the opportunity.
Thank you, Lofa. Thank you so much. So, Commissioner Washington, even though we're about to leave the radio here very soon, so can you please respond or react to some of the questions or concerns you've had briefly so that we can leave the radio and then we got to do part 2 of this because of the timing. We got the timing late today, but we'll definitely schedule some. Go ahead, please.
Okay, sure. So I will start from my young brother Lofa, and then I will start from down and come up. So okay. Lofa, thank you for that question. There is nowhere in the TRC Act that says that because commissioners work on the TRC, so they should be a part of a war crimes code project or whatsoever. But however, because we work on the TRC, does not preclude us or exclude us from being Liberians. So we did not cease being Liberians, once we ended the TRC process. I want you to understand that, Lofa. We are Liberians. We are stakeholders in what happened in our country. And the reason we're speaking passionately is because we know about the job. We know about what should be happening because we have best practice. We worked on it. We generated, the document, and we have other experience, other transitional justice experience that is needed. So we're not saying that we want to be on the project or we have to be, but what we're saying is as Liberians, our voices will not be silenced. We have the right to speak out. And if people want us to be part of the process, that would be left for us. I just said on Saturday on Focus on Liberia that I would not work with Jonathan Massacre because I think the whole process surrounding his selection and what's going on is a fraud. I'm not going to be a part of it. I always stand alone. I always make, my point. So I'm not going to work with him. If he's going to be there, then definitely coming out, I'm not going to work with him because the whole process is a fraud. That's not what should be happening for the people of Liberia. So yes, there is nowhere in the TRC Act, there was no provision that say commissioners after the work, they must be part of it. But there is nothing in the TRC either that say that commissioners cannot be part of it or part of any process in the country because that is our country. We are major stakeholders and we have to write if we want to be a part of it, if we think we have something to offer. So I just wanted to clarify that for my brother Lofa. And also to Mr. Kuroma, Sekou L.S. Kuroma, right? Okay, I just want to correct you, Sekou. You keep calling me Miss Madam Massacre. My name is Massa Emilia Washington. Massa Emilia Washington. Yeah. Yes, so I'm not Massacre. I just wanted to make that clarification. And then also, it would seem that what you read about Alan White is like you had his resume and his profile. I wish you had told us in advance so that we could have brought our resume and profile too. Or maybe if you wanted to be balanced, maybe you could have pulled me up on the internet and read my resume and profile too. Now, it may not be as flary as Alan White because one, I'm not his age. We got many age between us, age difference between us, and but the thing is, reading his profile in this discussion exposes your biasness. Now, I don't think you meant any harm. I don't think you're a biased person per se. I think you're a good person. You're just trying to to engage us. But in doing that, it was a misstep. Let me use your own words. It was a misstep, and it makes you look like you support Adam White. Now you have the right to support Adam White, but as a host or a journalist or wanting to be a journalist, you should have been not interject yourself. You should have been fair and balanced. So next time, if you bring in any of us or any panelist or guest on your show, and you think you're going to be reading the profile of another person who they are at odd or variance with, then you make sure you bring the profile of that guest to a one, because I don't know if you know that I was named by the United States State Department as Liberian Woman of Courage. I don't know whether you know that. I don't know whether you know that. Okay, so I just wanted to make that point so it make you look biased. And then also, I don't care.
1 minute
I don't know.
quickly. 1 minute
No, let me
quickly.
finish speaking. Let me finish speaking.
Yes,
When I finish
several
talking,
please.
when you spoke, I gave you chance. When I finish speaking, then you can speak. And so I don't know what that was meant to do, but I don't care if I don't know what is Jesus Christ. I will have a say in what is happening. And I think what he's doing is wrong. And I don't care even if he had her resume long like the late Queen Elizabeth or Napoleon Bonaparte. I'm not intimidated by that at all. Okay, and then there's another person who so but basically that's it. So I will stop here for now and give other people a chance to speak.
Yes, quickly, let's go to Commissioner Stewart to quickly react to what he heard from some of the callers, especially in regard to the allegation he made that money was interplayed or was discussed during Mr. Cummings' meeting with then candidate Joseph Yuma Boakai, current president, which some of the callers said it was refuted, and I did state on here that we interviewed Mr. Cummings right after the news broke. We even broke the news too, as well as insiders who got some of the scoops from Ghana, and we told the Liberian people exactly what happened. Mr. Cummings came here. We asked him similar questions. He refuted any discussion of money. He did admit to the meeting occurring in Ghana. And in fact, he added up that it was just him and Mr. Boakai or Kennedy Boakai at the time in the room. So let's hear from Mr. Stewart and also Commissioner Stewart, and we can move forward. Commissioner Stewart, what say you? Yeah, I know he's having bad connections today. We have to schedule with him to come back. But quickly, folks, this is where we are. This is where we are with the conversation. Sebo, I know you had you want to say something really quick before we ask Commissioner Washington one or two questions.
I just want to let Madam Washington know that I wasn't biased. Absolutely. I brought in the reading of that profile when she kept saying that he's a lobbyist. He's a lobbyist. And I just wanted to read about it so that we can know that this individual, not just being a lobbyist, but he have headed, an institution of sorts in Sierra Leone. So that has nothing to do.
Do you know how he left Sierra Leone? Do you know how he left Sierra Leone? Because what you did here was you didn't give us any critical analysis of Alan Ware. You only read his resume. I have a resume. When you see my resume, my resume is so flowery.
Madam, you were asked to please introduce yourself. If you were in the shoe of Alan, I would have done this to read about you.
Introducing myself did not mean that I should sit down and read a 3-page resume of myself. That's not what introduction meant. It did not mean that. Okay, as a public servant, I learned to be humble. You don't come flashing your acolytes or whatsoever. But I made that point because I thought you appeared biased when you did that. I never. You as a host shouldn't have projected how you feel. So maybe Alan Ware is your God. Maybe Alan Ware is all that.
I don't even know him.
Yeah, but the rest of us, our opinion, no. But you reading his resume as if so you read his resume for me to do what? To be intimidated? Or to prove that Alan Ware is this fantastic guy? A resume is a resume. Let me just leave you with the analysis. I watched investigation ID a lot. They have a show on cable news here, is where people investigate murders and they solve them over time. It's called Investigation ID. And there is this story on there of this fire chief of a town, somewhere, I finish forgetting. But he was the fire chief. He was the head of the fire department. He was celebrated. He graduated from police academy with stars and was celebrated and all of that. Certain time, they started having fires in the city. People were dying in the fires and all of that, and they didn't know who were causing this fire. So they started doing an investigation, started tracking, and years after a while, only to find out that it was this fire chief who was the number one celebrated, a cop in town, he was married with 2 children. a president of the PTA, I mean, a model citizen. He was a fire chief and setting fire in his own city and killing people. Okay, so listen, I don't care about Adam White's resume. Yes, I respect that he did some of these things, but how? I'm talking about now. How does he come across now in this
You speak
Liberian?
as if you have some personal problem
So,
with
so,
Adam
so,
White.
so, Segu,
You were wrong for reading his resume. You were wrong.
Segu,
I wasn't
Reading his resume,
Segu, let me
listen,
progress.
I
reading
wasn't
Adam
wrong.
White resume, reading Adam
Please.
White resume and profile was like saying, "Oh, so what? Shut me up." Or I was supposed to be intimidated.
That's
or
how
I
you
was supposed
feel.
to clap for Adam White.
That's
I
how
have
you
a
feel,
profile
man.
resume. So next time when you want to compare like that, you be fair. You get my resume, you get my profile, you get John Stewart profile and stuff, and then you can read all the profiles since the show was about reading a lengthy profile of Adam White.
So Segu, let me progress. We have a caller on the phone here. Quickly, let's hear from this caller, and then hopefully John Stewart can react.
You don't respect your own people. You don't respect the sacrifice and decency of your own people. Adam White is white, so he's God.
So caller, what's your name? Where you calling from, please?
Okay, good evening, Moses, and good evening to Sis Massa, one of our strong women in Liberia. I'm so proud of you for always standing up on the side of the Liberian people and for always being a patriot. Do not allow any person or man to try to intimidate you. We love you and we respect what you do. Moses, to the topic, I think it's a dishonest and a disrespect to the commissioners who have worked so hard from the beginning of Liberia getting justice to this day where we are. So for me, with all due respect to Mr. White, I will ask that he go back to the drawing board and try to bring the commissioners on board because they have worked. They know these perpetrators and they know what are some of the recommendations and things that they have written down. So I think it's fair enough that these commissioners will work with with whatsoever team that is being set up to start up the war economics framework. And secondly, I'm calling on the president, this president that some of us believe in, even though we were supporting another political party. But when it comes to the duty of Liberia, we decided to choose on the side of our people, which was Joseph Nemapaka, without no regret. But you have had, and during the past days and months, you have had so many mistakes that you have been doing. And this is one of the mistakes. Appointing Massacre, who was once a legal representative of Agnes Taylor, another ex-warlord, as the head of the War and Economics Crime Code team is a complete contradiction and it's a conflict of interest. You cannot, it's just like, for example, you have a case in the court and a judge who is presiding over the case is happen to be the former lawyer of the defendant. How do you expect that judge to carry out a fair judgment? It's not possible. It is unacceptable. There are a lot of mistakes, President Bata, things have been going on, but I know that you are not in the know of it. But it is time that you step up, oh man. Step up. The Liberian people believe in you, and some of us believe in you. We felt that you were a better option than corrupt we are and murderer we are. But now you're making us to think somehow. This is so unacceptable. It is wrong that we as Liberians will always try to underestimate and try bringing our people down every time. These are educated and well-seasoned people who were chosen by the Liberian people to carry out a piece of job. You cannot just kick them aside like there's some kind of, non-entity or they don't value because we just hate ourselves and we don't have respect for ourselves. This is unacceptable. If the government and Island White does not have anything to hide, they will bring the commissioners on board.
Thank you. I have another caller.
Thank you so much. Okay, my dear. Thanks.
Thank you. Let me take this other caller really quick. Caller, what's your name? Where are you calling from, please?
Massa, thank you so much for your hard work and all the work that you all did put into this, the TRC report. And I do understand with the with what Sheku Kuroma did not understand who you were. And sometimes we have to do our research before we come out and we speak on who the person is. And the thing is, who Alan White is working with are people who don't want to work with the full commissioners of the TRC. And that's why he can do what he's doing, but that is wrong. Because they know very well the commissioners are qualified to do this work, and they will take a man who was already a defender of a war criminal to come and head a war crimes court office in Liberia. So that is something that, Massa, I agree with you. I stand by you. Me and you sometimes we go at it, but I stand by you with everything. And next time, Sheku, just understand, when you're coming out, she's not, she's just letting you know you came across. Even me, when I was listening to you, you came across bias. So that's what it is. And just accept it and don't fight it. As a reporter, you always say with everybody that, we should look at this government. We shouldn't be biased. We shouldn't be this. But you cannot come across as being one-sided all the time. But I thank you. I love this show today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Folks, I think we'll wind down and we'll try to hear from Commissioner Washington. And again, it's our fault. Apology when 30 minutes into her time, she agreed, but we had some issues in the back end that we had to resolve. That's what took us forever. We'll also get with Commissioner Stewart, who has a lot to contribute, but because of the sake of time, we might not be able to exhaust everything today. Let's start with Commissioner Stewart quickly to react from what he has heard for maybe 2 minutes, and then do his closing. We'll get with Commissioner Washington, who will react as well and do her closing, and we'll call it a day. Commissioner Stewart, what say you amidst everything you heard from the callers? I know you were in and out, and we do plan to schedule with you a one-on-one where we allocate enough time for us to get deeper into some of these conversations. I know we've tried to do it in the past, but it hasn't worked. It's on our scheduling here, but we'll work with you in the back end. What say you? What's your reaction? What's your parting comment for today?
Well, let me ask one of your presenters, Mr.
Yeah, Commissioner Stewart, you're not making. Yeah, Commissioner Stewart looking like you're not making.
What does a resume have to do with integrity? Is on the resume, has Alan White ever been involved with the civil rights movement in America? As compared to, oh, shoots. So if you bring in resume, what kind of neighborhood did Alan?
Yeah. So
was Alan White ever involved in the civil rights movement in America?
Okay, you're not making. You're not making. By the way, Commissioner Washington, let's get your part.
I didn't work off. I didn't work sending his letting it thunder. Dr. White. Just to make it lighthearted, nothing small, man.
Go ahead, Commissioner Washington. Your reaction to what you've heard from the callers, the callers from the diaspora, because I know you reacted to the callers from Liberia, the callers from the diaspora, your reaction, and also your parting comments, please.
Okay, so I would like to express thanks and gratitude to the two ladies. Thank you so much for recognizing our work. You know, it's not an easy thing for us women to be brave and bold and go out there. There are a lot of extremely qualified women, smart women who do not engage the public at this level because they don't want to be insulted. They don't want to, to be talked down to. And, because of that, a lot of women shy away from these kinds of public, forums and discussions because, they are afraid that people will say something that will belittle them or so, or even they call us, they're afraid. But for the few of us who try to brave it and stuff, I mean, that's what it is. That's what we opted for. So nothing spoiled. But I would like to thank the sisters for their candid, but respectful comment and for the love. I'm grateful. Thank you so much. I recognize the first caller, Antwit Jallo. I recognize Antwit. Antwit, thank you, baby. But I don't record the second caller. I was trying to figure out who that is when she said with a butt hair sometimes. I kind of think that one of my, intellectual friends, but I couldn't, put the voice together. But, whoever you are, Mama, don't worry. We will disagree sometimes, but we'll always agree on the most important generic issues. That's how it should be. When it comes to the greater good, we must agree. We can disagree on other points, but we must always find that common ground for the sake of Liberia. And, so thank you so much. I appreciate it. So, but let me just say, there was a caller in Liberia who I didn't address. I think it's very important because people didn't follow the TRC process, and some people have not read the mandate at all. It's on the internet, it's everywhere. So this caller was saying that we failed to implement the TRC mandate. I thought it's very important to address that because he's not the only one who thinks like this. A lot of the times when I'm on talk shows or even when you're commenting, on the internet or so, people make this comment. So apparently a wide range of Liberians still don't really understand what the job of the commissioners, was. So to that caller, respectfully, thank you so much. I really like that he asked the question because it's affording me another opportunity to educate people, so which is really good. So I like his question. My dear, the TRC and the commissioners did not have the responsibility to implement the recommendations. Our job stopped once we did our final report and we turned it over to the government, which represents the people of Liberia and key institutions. Our job was over with. We went into being private citizens. And our job was to do the process, do the investigations, hold hearings, and everything. At the end of the day, write a comprehensive report. And in that report, we should be recommending prosecution for war crimes, prosecution for economic crimes, and, and also memorial and other things. So we have, the TRC has more than 200 recommendations. If you have the time, just go there. It's so crazy that the focus has only been on the accountability recommendations, especially the war crimes code. But imagine 200 recommendations. We got recommendations on land tenure, all that confusion that going on with land stuff. The TRC made recommendation for it. We made recommendation for reparation for victims. What should happen with victims? We even drafted the statute for the reparation fund to start. If the government wants to start a reparation fund for victims, we drafted the statute. Our lawyers drafted the statute. Even this war crimes code, the TRC, in the back of the TRC report, we have a draft statute legislation and structure as to how it should look, so that the government or other people who will be working on this can use that as a working document. They can edit, delete, add, but so that people don't start from scratch because it's a difficult job. So people should go back to the TRC report and look at the recommendations for the structure of the war crimes code, for the structure of the reparation fund for victims and all of that. And we even have recommendations for rehabilitation for former child soldiers. We have recommendations for women, for psychosocial support for people in the 15 counties, for the educational sector and all of that, for the health sector and all of that. So, but I just wanted to say that, I'm glad that we had this discussion. I think it was a very good discussion. I love it. And I will come back anytime, you guys have the time, you want to talk to me, I will find the time. I will look forward to engaging and seeing my young brother again, Mr. Kuruma. It was a very good discussion. Sometimes it's good to be the agent provocateur, then you can bring out the passion in people. So nothing spoiled. When you get to know me, you will love me. The day I see you, you owe me a big hug. And Steve, this is what I want you to do for me. Please convince Alan White for me. I want to debate him on the war crimes code issue. If Alan White agrees that he wants to come on SKTV or focus on Liberia or anywhere to debate this issue and the appointment of Massa, I'm game. Anytime, even he say Sunday morning 6 o'clock, I will agree. So I'm throwing out a challenge to Dr. Adam White, sir. I would love to have a conversation with you here on SKTV. Not really a debate because I don't think, but Dr. White, I would love for us to come and discuss this. So please contact SKTV. Let's arrange it. Let's have that debate. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Washington. We are definitely sorry for Commissioner Stewart's the connections and so forth, the back and forth. We're very, very sorry. But folks, we will be reaching out to Commissioner Stewart because we definitely want to have a time with him and a conversation to schedule with him. We'll also be reaching out to Dr. Alan White. A lot of things has been said here today. We want to thank Commissioner Washington. Again, we took up her time. We ran late on the program today. Thank you so much, Commissioner Washington. We'll be in touch. We appreciate your time and your services to our country and to humanity at large. Thank you. Have a good day, Commissioner Washington. Folks,
Thank you very much.
Yes, folks, we'll draw down the
Thank
curtain.
you very much, madam, for coming
Please
on the
give
show.
please give my regards to Stiku.
Thank you very much for coming on the show. I really appreciate you. It was wonderful having you. I mean, I like the way you talk. The voice is, I don't want, but look, thank you so much. I respect you a whole lot, honestly.
All is fine in peace.
Okay.
I'm quoting Shakespeare. They say jaw is better than war. Jaw is better for us to talk, whack our jaw than for us to go into war and hurt each other. So jaw is always better than war. Okay. Yep.
Okay.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you. Well, folks, that will be it for Sekou. Come out. What say you, my man? What's been going on? What say you? And how do we? What say you, Sekou?
Obviously, you know we're
going. Somebody keep calling. Let me take this call. This last caller. Somebody just keep calling. Please hear a reaction. The person keeps calling. I don't know what's going on. Yeah, I called the person back. They didn't pick up now. So what about Sekou? I mean, what's going on? What your reaction? I see you last minute time the politician and say you smoke peace pipe. You're smoking peace pipe? What's going on?
No, you see, when it comes to these kind of discussion, most times when you're on the radio, you find out that some questions you will ask and some things you will say, people problem with you. But you must be trained enough not to get angry on public media. Because the moment you get angry, people take offense with you. I'm one person who, it's not just easy for me to get angry. All right? Yeah, she felt the way she felt, and I said what I was supposed to say. Yeah. But look, I mean, thank you so much. The show was okay. We'll be here again tomorrow with another edition. We also started going live in the morning with the page. So some of you who, we have time, you can join us in the morning with the show every morning for 3 hours. So once again, let me say a big thank you to Steve and the rest of the team. I'm sure we'll be here tomorrow.
I have been following the morning show with you guys. I've been following thoroughly and religiously. I think it's very exciting. One of these days, I will text you so I can sneak in on a morning show.
Okay. All right.
I know it can be heated for the early morning run. So to be honest, I really been enjoying it. But I've just been sitting in the back and watching without. The first time I commented, but then I haven't been commenting lately. I've been enjoying it. Tomorrow we'll pick up from some of the research or findings that Sekou Nkrumah has for SKTV in terms of what's happening in the southeast, especially in Grand Jide and other places. Last time there was a story broken on SKTV by Sekou Nkrumah, who is also doing follow-up with that story to substantiate some of the facts or the allegations there. And so he has some progress report on that. So tomorrow he will update us. We'll talk about it and what are some of the potential risks. Tomorrow we'll also have a lot of things to talk about, such as what's going on in the country. We'll also been following up with a story with a yellow machine. Yeah, yellow machine. Oh, we're beyond the story, eh? We're beyond the story. We're not
getting machine down.
We're beyond that story with a yellow machine, and we're beyond the story with the bosses. The old bosses what they brought to fool you. We're beyond the story then. The hell old bosses, don't put your family in that boss. So old bosses. I'm joking. The hell old bosses to them, but I go dedicate. But we'll be here tomorrow.
We'll still check and see what other old bosses are. The
hell old bosses, old bosses, two old bosses they brought in the time to everything. We'll get into it tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll also get into some serious conversation as to the House of Representatives. They have their own thing going on. Fanatic Kofa has been accused hugely by his members, by some of his members. There seems to be, listen, dog. You know, in Araco, there's a parable that said dog and chin whale sitting there. In Labro, we can say, I know blind and bien or whatever it is. That means once a row is always a row. Whether you made a head, you made a deal. They can still get hands. We will discuss the House of Representatives tomorrow. The House of Representatives spent $750,000 United States dollars.
What?
$750K to print ID card. And you know who did it? The guy from Bon County, from CDC. Where
700 or 75,000.
75,000, sorry. 75,000. Melvin Cole, who used to be behind Natana Maggie. You know Melvin Cole from Bon County used to be behind Natana Maggie. So when the question I want to ask, so criminal they can come from Bon County? What going on? We'll discuss them tomorrow. And you know the other representative used to be calling on here. And you know the other representative will bring a story us out too. I will bring a story us out tomorrow. Now. Ain't gonna be calling.
I need to go. I need to go.
Us out tomorrow. Even Bon County too. We got a story here. We got a story. So tomorrow, you know what the show will be hot tomorrow. You don't want to miss it. It will be yeah, it'll be too hot. Tomorrow Bon County we enter. In fact, we'll be going from county to county this time to identify all the criminals in different countries. But we'll be going from county to county now. We'll be bringing your story there also. Magibi Umpa, I from Magibi, I was born in Magibi. My two senators then are criminals. Yep. Oh, my two senators sentenced for criminality now. Somebody else.
I beg you, let the tea for tomorrow, yeah? I hold your vote.
I just think it should be.
Yeah, they G's don't believe it right now. Leave it for tomorrow. I beg you.
Okay, yeah. Folks, your thank you will be on tomorrow. My man, thank you so much. Melbourne, thank you to you and the team back there. Thank you. Sheku, thank you. We'll see you tomorrow by the grace of God. I will follow you in the morning too as well. Folks,
thank you.
That's how we brought down the getting. The politician can say against this backdrop. We got to.
There are things we can do. We bring in good news and we give it to you. We judge it for podcast and connecting people and culture from here and up out of the globe.